You're listening to Pickleball Business Lab, the podcast where pickleball meets profit. Each week, your hosts, Colin and JR, dive deep into the business behind the fastest growing sport in America. From pro team owners and league execs to brand builders, sponsors, and startup founders, we're talking to the people shaping the future of the game. This isn't just about how you play, it's about how you build, grow, and win in the business of pickleball. Now let's head into the lab.
We are back for episode 2 weeks in a row. I'm pretty excited about that. How about you, JR?
There's something about getting on a schedule that excites me.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned it in episode 1, but I've been laid off since March 7th. I probably applied to, 150, 100 roles maybe. I was actually talking to one of my colleagues who also got cut from our division, and they had mentioned they had applied to over 200 roles, and I was like, holy cow. So I think what they've been doing is taking their so-called 9 to 5 and just sitting in front of LinkedIn and just applying to everything. We've been blessed, I'll say, to have, a severance package. So, pay, benefits and everything. So it's almost like I'm working. So it's kind of been a nice little sabbatical to like be able to, as I've said before, my daughter graduated, some with baseball, I help coach all that. So, and some, house projects for like the honey to-do list. So anyway, we are back with episode 2. And today, I think we kind of teased it and hinted at it a little bit in episode 1 about personal branding and specifically athlete personal branding. Now, there's probably aspects of this that can be applied to any person. And I'll say that, everybody, whether or not you're intentional or unintentional about it, you have a brand, right? If somebody says something about you that goes back to stuff you've done, your character, you have a brand. So with that said, everybody talks about personal branding, but most people get it confused, right? They think of the branding elements, the logo, the colors, the aesthetics, the social media following. And I know that's something that you and I had talked about too in that teaser podcast, or I should say that pre-recorded podcast that we were testing out, right? We were talking about like the branding elements of every MLP team, who's doing good, who's doing bad, right off the bat. I don't know if they're ever going to listen to this episode, but like we talked about the Atlanta Bouncers, right? They got the Stella Artois across their shirt, and their actual logo of their team's like up here, corner of the chest. And then who the sponsor is for that team is huge. That's a big miss, in my opinion.
Weird.
So anyway, the goal here, we want you to pull out your moleskin, get your notebook, take some notes. If you are an amateur pickleball player, if you're even a pro pickleball player, but you're not getting the traction with the partnerships, the sponsorships, then this is going to be the episode for you. So JR, when we talk about like, so what is a personal brand? Like, right away, like, what do you think of?
I think of, and this is tough for me because, so of the two of us, how do I want to say it? I am less of a brand. Which is weird because we're both recording, right? Like we're putting ourselves out there. We're doing this. But I'm probably, if you want to use some classic terminology, I'm probably a little more introverted. You're probably just simple classification, a little closer to the extrovert side. So when I think of personal brand, it's hard because I don't see myself as having one, even though you already told me that I do. So
Yep.
There's really there's no arguing it, right? What's done is done. But personally, I probably think the easiest way to say it would be, it's the perception that other people have of you, right? And that's based on, what you consistently communicate and how you show up in front of people, right? Like what you're putting out there, how you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, so you bring up a lot of good points. So if I rewind time and I go back to when I had my bachelor's degree in marketing, I was working in the energy industry. I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. My kids were very little at that time, a baby and a toddler. So I went back to school, right, for my master's degree. And It was also in marketing, different field of marketing, but marketing. And I said to myself, I need to start to leverage all of these social media tools that exist. And I think that pushed me to be a little more extroverted. And I'll say this, what we will put into this episode is exactly what I did without even realizing it. I had a goal in mind, and then I reversed that backwards to say, what do I got to do to get to that point? So for me at that time, we're talking 2013. And if there is an MLP player listening, most of them were probably kids. If we're honest,
Yeah.
I was leveraging Twitter to no extent. And I'll say something. You talked about yourself. You do this on LinkedIn. Now, I know JR personally. He's not on social media near as much as I am. I'm not even close. But he is on LinkedIn. And what he does is I would say he's I'll say a super fan, a connector. There's people that we've been blessed to be connected with in the inbound marketing world who are big names that are well known, and they speak at major events, and they do things with HubSpot. If you're not familiar with HubSpot, it's an inbound marketing platform. It competes directly with Salesforce. It's continued to grow year over year, but JR has done a great job of liking and commenting and sharing things that anybody who is at so-called higher level, they love to have, and they start to get connected. And that's something I did, and that's, eventually what got me down the route that I'll say that I'm at today. I'm laid off. But anyway, so a personal brand, it's your reputation, it's your visibility. Whether or not you have a lot of high visibility or not, that's where, but reputation is the big part of it. And then how you build that platform with visibility is really where you need to leverage all of that. So when people, so this is a quote from Jeff Bezos. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. When you leave the room and they are having conversations about you, that's your personal brand. Now, you can think about personality types, right? And people who have built great personal brands. And one of the ones that we mentioned last week is a co-owner of the New Jersey Fives, Gary Vee. Gary Vee has built an incredible personal brand. Now, granted, he has some of the money to leverage the ability to take his POV and hire a videographer that follows him around. He's had multiple different shows, different things within YouTube. So if you like or don't like the New Jersey Fives, I would say go follow Gary Vee because you will get a ton from him. And then another person, which might not be as familiar with in the sports world, but more from the business world and is an author, is Brene Brown. So going back to Gary Vee, authentic, hustle. Those are the two things you think of with Gary Vee. With Brene Brown, you think of vulnerability and you think research, right? So start to formulate those words for yourself and what they are, and then how we can look to build those as we move on. So what with that said, so then we go into what goes into crafting a personal brand. JR, do you kind of want to jump in here and kind of give some of your thoughts on what it takes to craft a personal brand, just based off of what you know?
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna kind of jump back into that previous kind of what is a personal brand portion there, and you would made another good point. I don't see it because I'm not in the room, right, regarding Bezos's quote. But when I leave the room, if I made any impact at all, there might be people that I leave behind in the room who are talking about that point that I made, or talking about the way I made them feel when I was with them in the room. That's my brand.
Yep.
My brand might be smaller,
Yeah.
quieter, use your adjective to describe it there. But I thought it was interesting the way you frame, like the way you could frame that quote to say, hey, just when you think you don't have a brand, if you're actually engaging with people, in relationship with people, you do have a brand. Sometimes you just might not really think of it that way, right?
Yep.
So, back to your what goes into crafting the brand, the first thing I think of is time, right? It takes time. Now, some people might say, you mentioned Gary Vee there for a moment. Gary, a lot of people might say that Gary kind of came out of nowhere, right? And was all over social, all at once. But if you know Gary, he was really laying the foundation with his family's. It was a wine business, was
Yeah,
it
it
not?
was.
He was laying the foundation just years, years, a decade and a half,
Yeah.
maybe two, in advance by just recording himself getting on camera and fumbling around and feeling goofy, working out the kinks. But over time, he was able to craft that personal brand over time. So it's the first thing I think of is like you said earlier, it doesn't really happen overnight. Sometimes it just takes time. But it's about not about inventing so much a new persona, really. It's really about building upon who you are already, your authentic self, right? That's another thing that I think of. So time and authenticity would probably be two of the top key words that I think of. What say you?
So it's funny you said that because that's something that we probably should have put in further towards the beginning here. So when you build a brand, don't build a fake brand, right? Like who you are, let's say on camera versus off camera. Have clarity in who you are. What are your
Hmm.
values? What do you stand for? What value do you provide to others? And I always believe in the mantra of if you water other people's gardens, you will grow as well, right? If you got, your next door neighbor has an empty cup and your glass is full and you fill half of theirs up to help them out, you'll fill back up again. And if it's information, you're actually going to retain that information better by taking what you've learned and giving it to others because now you're applying it. So from there, think about what audience are you speaking to? What value can you provide to them? And then once again, consistency, which I kind of hinted at there. So your messaging with that audience, what's the tone, what's the visuals, what's the behavior, and then, and if it's within social, what platform is it on, right? I'm not going to talk the same necessarily or post the same as I would on Instagram versus LinkedIn. There's going to be a little more professionalism on LinkedIn. Facebook, Instagram could be the same, might be a little more friendly or more, maybe even more clinical, if you will. Instagram, I'm probably gonna be more fun and witty. And then TikTok, I might be more comedic, right? That might just be in the post, the way you share things. So then from, clarity, consistency, then there's the credibility of who you are. If you're a lesser known person, it's going to take you more time to build up that credibility, right? If you're somebody like a Ben Johns or Annalie Waters, that already is laid. That foundation's laid. Unless somebody has no idea who they are because they don't follow anything pro level, then okay. But eventually they're going to quickly realize, oh, this person's the king of pickleball. This person's the queen of pickleball, right? So, but even at that level of that credibility, what does their brand stand for? And
Mhm.
I think, for me, I see different things, I hear different things. So my viewpoint is probably going to be different from somebody else's viewpoint, right? And that's because I'm so obsessed with learning as much as I can, not just about pickleball and strategy of pickleball, but like, because of our background in marketing, uh, and content marketing and business and like revenue growth, all these things that we love, I'm instantly drawn into that side. So I want to learn everything I can about the PPA, the MLP, the teams, the team structures, the ownership. So I start digging and digging and digging. And usually when you dig, you find a lot of cool things, great things, maybe things that aren't so cool, right? But going back real quick, because I just thought about this to your personal brand, specifically you. When I think about the identifiers that we talked about with Gary and with Brene Brown, one word that comes to mind right away for you, and like I said, I think you do that well on LinkedIn, and I know you've done that with me, is loyalty is one of the key words I think of. So if somebody gets to know JR, they're going to eventually say, hey man, this guy, like, he's loyal. Like he's not going to talk bad about you. He's not going to backstab you. If he has something constructive to say, he's going to say it to your face, right? And I'll give a quick example for the audience listening, and whether you're watching on YouTube. So when was that, JR? Like 2016, 2017. We worked for the same company together. When I came into that company, there was no marketing at all. It was just office staff, sales staff. That was it. So I came in and they were hiring for a role that really was failed. Like it was from the get go, the role itself, or what they called it. So I came in, I interviewed a couple times, and by the end of it, they changed the role title, they changed the description based off of the conversation I was having. And then I come in there, and when I come in there, I don't, what am I in there for like the first week? And JR walks into the room and we're talking about HubSpot and we're talking about inbound marketing to really help this business grow from a digital perspective, because everything they were doing at that point was like the salespeople had a Rolodex, who they knew, they were knocking on doors, shaking hands, playing golf, to get these deals done. And, our thing was like, hey, you can build landing pages. We can create content to draw people in when they get to that landing page. That every single landing page on your website is essentially a digital sales agent, so to speak, because you're going to get your leads that way, right? So you're going to go from cold leads to warm leads, marketing qualified leads. Hopefully they get to that SQL level, that sales qualified lead. But JR walks in the room and he mentioned something about HubSpot or inbound. I don't remember what it was, but I instantly like, what? Like, there's somebody else here that actually understands this. Why are they, what's going on? So from that point on, JR had a role where he was more of a lead technologist, is what I would classify him as, with the software that the company ran and used. They came to JR for everything, and on how to like fix things, tweak things, build things, expand the software that they were using. He was kind of like that liaison between the actual software company itself and the company we worked for. So I don't remember how I even did it, but somehow I was able to get JR to help me while he did his role, his current day job. And I feel that eventually we got to the point that his day job did become content marketing, inbound marketing, writing content, emails, and all that stuff. But my goal was to be there short term because I had a company that I wanted to work for, and that was the company I was at for over 7 years, almost 7.5 years before our division got cut. But when I was leaving, JR told me, if you ever decide, because one of the things that I'd always talked about was creating a small boutique agency where we hit on these things with, everything we've been talking about. He's like, I'll go with you. We'll do this. So, fast forward, we do have a small boutique agency for ourselves that we manage clients with their content, their website, their inbound marketing strategy. Maybe it's just building a marketing strategy or social media. We actually haven't done a great job of even promoting ourselves, really. We've just been like in the weeds doing stuff for people. So we do need to do a better job of that. So while I haven't thrown it out there, if that's something that you're a business and you're looking to find ways to grow, once again, pickleballbusinesslab@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us. With that, kind of went a little bit long there. So JR, next section for us is like what a personal brand is not. I'll let you kick that off.
Ooh. Should we give examples? I mean, are we going to be a little edgy? Should we give examples of bad personal brands? What if we just did a rapid fire name drop? First 3 names that come to your mind. No, you don't want to do it? That's okay.
Well,
We don't. I thought, what if we could have some fun? But no.
So
let's
stay out of pickleball. Let's stay out of politics. We don't know where our audience sits, right? So
that's fine.
But we can do any other sport. So I'll tell you somebody I'm like on the fence about their brand. And I just, matter of fact, it just came up today while I was on Instagram. So I mentioned in episode 1, baseball player, right? And that's, baseball's my key sport. But I'd say as I'm getting older and like I don't get to go play baseball other than like coaching my kids, it's really pickleball. I love golf. I do like golf. I'm terrible at it, but I have a hard time dedicating 3.5 to 5 hours to a game. when I have a family at home, and I know that we can go on a pickleball court as a family and play. And the funny part is, real quick, my daughter's boyfriend, he's having his 18th birthday on this upcoming Monday. So which will be the probably day that this episode releases, and he's having a birthday party that he's throwing himself down at, we'll call it park area. So he wants to play wiffle ball, but it's called blitz ball because the ball is like got that diamondy shape. It's a ball, but like when you throw it, it can curve and go crazy. But he also wants to
Mhm.
play pickleball because they actually, Jared, I don't know if I told you this, but so we have our tennis court, pickleball court on the other side of town, which is like, the nicer area, but then closer towards my side of town in the borough, they just installed two brand new courts by the softball fields. And they're really nice. They're obviously they're brand new, so they're in way better shape than the existing ones, which have cracks and do need repaired. Especially tennis courts, because nobody plays tennis. But anyway, but back to what you said. Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, a great
Mm,
baseball player. I rooted
mhm.
for him in one of the home run derbies, but he recently made a comment that where he's like, I know I'm good. I'm really good. And me personally, I have a problem with people that verbally say that. I think it's fine in your mind to tell yourself, hey, I'm the best on the field. I think you have to from a mentality standpoint. Um, I do that. And I've done that my entire life. And I'll tell you why, because when I was a kid, I was usually the smallest kid on the baseball field. I was the smallest kid playing backyard football. So I would tell myself, I'm the best one here because if not, I start looking at everybody and I start analyzing them. And then I start saying, this person's going to crush me. This person's going to outrun me. So
Yep.
I mentally told myself, but I would never, ever verbally say that because I think to me, there's nothing more magnetic, at least in my opinion, than somebody who can be charismatic, be great at whatever that is, but be humble. Like I will follow that person and want to learn from them more than anybody else than the guy who says like I'm awesome. Oh, I got a good one. Yo, I just thought of a good one. Hopefully he doesn't ever listen to this, and I'm sure he won't because we're just, on episode 2 and he probably could care less about me in my opinion. If you are a salesperson, you can learn a ton from this guy, but this guy is so full of himself and he's put stuff on out on social media that just from my experience are complete lies. So I hate to be that negative on our show because I hopefully do want to get sponsorships and partnerships. A guy named Andy Elliott. So he, if doesn't take much to find him, I think he's kind of clawing at that. He's trying to get to that Gary Vaynerchuk level of notoriety, but Gary does everything. And here's a great example: Gary does everything with authenticity. Andy does everything with a sales mindset and does whatever he has to do to do it. And I don't agree with that. So it kind of goes back to that used car salesman feel, even though I know he didn't ever sell used cars. And he keeps switching his persona where he was in the beginning teaching people how to sell, and he was doing that in different, industries and going and speaking. But now he's doing this family man thing, and that's completely fine too. But and I'm a fitness person. I'm still in. I literally Jr. messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm ready to record," and I'm like, I just got done with the gym. I'm still in my gym clothes." He is. We do so. Our kids know to. Like back in the day when they were little, we'd say, "Hey, what do you want in your lunches?" For school, and they would give us their protein, their carb, their snack, and then obviously whatever vegetable they wanted, even though vegetables are carbs. But they would give us that. So they already had this healthy eating mindset to a certain extent, except for my son. He has a little sugar gremlin, but um, he now what he's doing is he's doing this fitness thing, and he first off he put out ads that they were not true at all, and I don't know if anybody did any research. The product he was selling, he was making it more like a pre-workout, even though it wasn't a pre-workout. And pre-workout has so much caffeine level, and then it gives you that boost when you're in the gym, so you don't have that, that you fizzle out quickly after a few sets or reps. And people started commenting about it, so there was that. But at his age and the level of what his body has turned into, you can tell that's not from natural, and that amount of time. It's, from PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. So to me, authenticity goes a long way. So when, you talk about what is a bad brand, hopefully everybody who hears that, you take some of the negativity that I just put out there and you kind of fizzle past what I just said, but you look at what the message was, right? It was be authentic, tell the truth. If you mess up, admit you messed up. People are human. Brands are people in most cases, even if you have a company or you talk about anything, Burger King, McDonald's, bad examples, you talk about health, right? But whatever it is, there's people behind the brand. So and when it's all said and done, B2B and B2C does exist, but really it's human to human. So be authentic, admit mistakes, and your brand will continue to grow as long as you're putting in the work to make it grow, right? So something else that I think about is, and like we just kind of covered that, is, when you think about that personal brand, don't just think about the popularity or this polished look. Like authentic self, let your mistakes show and you will grow. And even these podcasts, right? I would love to have a amazing room like Pickleball Studio has, the lighting, the background, the pickleball paddles hanging over the walls. Like it's amazing. And it's very visually pleasing when you're watching it. Those guys do a great job. I mean, they're awesome. But I get stuck in the fear part of I want perfection before I start. And I even know that's, I know the answer is not my answer is just to start and just, work out the kinks as we go. And I think that's why we finally started to do this. And I'm okay with it. I hate my voice on anything. So JR, that when we were recording videos, I'll just say JR is a natural with video. When we would record product videos and stuff, I mean, this one take, I mean, perfection. I don't have that ability. And even I've let myself get past the whole hear myself, right? So don't worry about being polished. Just start and be authentic. That's your strategy. So keeping in mind things like, you're not a logo, you're not a color palette. You could eventually get to that point, right? And I do think if you think that way, it'll just make you be a little more intentional with your brand if you have something you're wanting to do. But I don't think it's necessary for a personal brand unless you're working on things like a website and things like that. Then you might want to say, hey, I like this color and here's why. And look at color perceptions too, like what those the psychological aspect of colors. Red means aggressive usually. Green's health. Blue is peaceful. There's all these different things, right? You think yellow or orange is energetic. I can't remember which one it is. So keep in mind, you're not a highlighted reel. You're not a curated version of yourself. Don't look at, once again, be authentic. So don't be fake. Don't force it. And don't think just aesthetics. That's not your personal brand. That's a costume, right? And, we all little kids were Halloween and, we put on a mask and the clothes. That's a perception. That's not who we are behind the mask. So,
Right.
so when we get into like some of the next part, that we're getting into that, let's kind of dig in now, JR, to like, how to audit your personal brand, where you are today, and then how you can look to evolve your personal brand.
Yeah. So when you talk about auditing and evolve, you're kind of taking an inventory of where you're currently at.
Yep.
You're looking at what you can do moving forward, right? I go back to time. Intentional, small, and consistent efforts over time can allow you to evolve, right? Can allow you to, understand where you're at, compare that to where you want to be, and then make the necessary changes and make the necessary adjustments, if you will. An easy way to do that would probably be you could just ask, right? You could talk to your partner, spouse, whatever, somebody that you're comfortable with. Ask them something like, what words come to mind when you think of me, right? Like you've already done that with me a couple times in this episode already.
Yep.
You could Google yourself, right? Like what do you find? What comes up if you Google yourself? Like for us, we're probably going to find, some of our social media, maybe some articles that we've written in the past for clients, things like that. And regarding what Google shows you, does it match what you want to be known for, right? So if there's a bit of a misalignment there, okay, I've got to go create some other content to, give Google a new look at me, right? Instead of what I used to be.
So real quick, because you just made me think of something when you said that. Athletes, actually anybody, great tool for you. Brandyourself.com. I have this set up and I've had it set up for 15 years, 20 years, maybe. I know I'm really dating myself right now, but however long it's been around, I've had this implemented and you would put your information in there, right? And there's a free version, there's a paid version. I'm only running the free version. And Google has this feature as well. I'd have to go dig. And if somebody wants this, just let me know, reach out to me. You can do this on Instagram if you want to, at Colin, COLIN Haas, HAAS. So Colin M Haas on Instagram, or you can, message us on the Pickleball Business Lab. I'll respond to you. But there's a Google feature as well. And both of these will give you an auto-generated email, maybe every week, every bi-weekly maybe, but it'll pull things up about you, positive, negative, neutral. And then you can go in there I know within Google at least, it'll tell you like, do you approve this, right? So it might be a background check website that like is looking information like it has like JR lives at this address. Here's who's in his house, right? Wife, kids are listed. I mean, that's fairly public information. So I think that is neutral. I don't worry about that. But surprisingly, there's a ton of people in the United States with the name Colin Hawes. As a matter of fact, JR, you know my love of Apple products, right? Years and years and years and years ago, I had a Apple HR rep call me. And she's telling me she's giving me a job offer. And I'm like, holy cow, I get to go work for Apple. I didn't even interview. Like, what is going on? And I looked her up and she's legit. Come to find out, there was a Colin Hawes from Texas who was interning with Apple, but he went to Duquesne in Pittsburgh, right?
Wow.
And long story short, she typed the email address wrong and typed my email address, not his. Not sure where she got it. I don't know why their information in their HR platform, because those things are so robust. What would have happened that she would have had mine, other than like I might have applied for a job at one point way before that. So the fact that like I'm getting a call out of the blue probably about a year later. And then she realized what happened and she's like, I'm so sorry. And, if you want to keep my contact information, if you see something, she, kind of like a peace treaty. But
Whoops.
yeah. So, and I've done this where, so there's a Colin Hawes that is a golfer, or I'm sorry, a hockey player, a younger guy. There's another Colin Hawes that actually has been in trouble multiple times, like with the law. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want that showing up as me because that's not me. So leverage those tools, especially if you are an amateur or a pro athlete in pickleball. That is a great tool for you to use yourself. If you have a PR person or a publicist or a manager, let them set that up for you. Let them manage that for you. You're talking a couple minutes a day. But with that, I'll let you get back because I kind of interjected there.
No, it's like, I mean, you hit on something there as far as, knowing what's already out there about you as part of your audit, right? Like taking inventory. If you've got a tool to help take inventory of what you're putting out in the world, right? And that includes the content you're putting out, the tone you're using, the behavior you're displaying online. All of that matters, right? And then you might even consider making kind of a one-pager, like a compass, right? Like what's my North Star? These are kind of my values, my positioning, the tone that I'm going to use when I'm online. Who's my kind of ideal audience? What goals do I have? When I go online, what do I want to accomplish, right? So, in order to audit and evolve, you have to think about, the question is is if your reputation doesn't reflect your potential, where you want to be, now's as good a time as any to close the gap, so to speak, right? Like to your point earlier, to start now.
Yep. Yep. So when you're doing that audit, whatever social platforms you're on, so this might be another good one to write down in your moleskin or your notebook, is look across all of your social accounts in any place there's information about you that you can control, right? Your owned media. There's owned media. So that's the stuff that you own and put out there into the world, whether it's through your website, your social media. There's earned media, so that's what you get from PR. So if you win a tournament or you snap a paddle over your leg, those are all things that are articles and content being written about you or created that you had no say in. And then there's the paid media. There's the money where you've invested into whatever that is. So in a business company standpoint, that might be paid search, that might be display ads, that might be social media ads, retargeting ads. That's all that side of the paid media. But look, do an audit of your Instagram bio. If you have LinkedIn, if you have Facebook, all the places you are, make sure all of those bios align with what you want. You're hoping your brand gets to, right? Your authentic self. So start there. And then from there you can build out that roadmap. And I'll say this is very, very easy to do if you have ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT, say, act as a world-class brand strategist for a athlete, and then period, and then go into, please draft bios for these channels and maybe figure out what the character limits are, and put some information about yourself and who you are as a person. It'll quickly pump out some great content for you and really help you paint that picture, because sometimes we get stuck with that white page and that pen and we don't know where to start. That'll get you started. You can polish it up and make it really who you are, but that'll really help you get to where you need to be and get started. So once again, take an inventory of your social channels, everything that you own. If there is a website, take inventory of that, start doing that audit. And then, as you mentioned like this one pager, right? This is kind of like, we'll call it the brand compass. Start putting in all of those aspects in there. Think about your values, your positioning, think about your tone, your audience, and your goals. What are your goals? What's the reason you are doing this? Is it to elevate your platform? Is it to get more sponsorships and partnerships? Like, that can all be done. So if your reputation doesn't reflect your potential, then it's time for you to close that gap. And hopefully some of those things that we just mentioned there is going to help you get to that point. So this is where we get into a real world example and somebody that I mentioned in episode 1. This guy, to me, what you see is what you get. He is fun. He's a showman. He's authentic. He's closer to my age, so I resonate a lot with him. And he has so much fire and spunk in him, and I haven't even said his name, and probably some of you could probably take everything I just said and go, he's talking about Tyson McGuffin, right? To me, Tyson is the king of a personal brand in all of pickleball, hands down. There's nobody who probably, in my opinion, has more partnerships and sponsorships, because he's been so authentic to who he is. He's fun. He's got that little bit of edgy side because he's tatted up, right? He's very flashy. So I do like that a lot as well. If you ever saw Making the McGuffins on Pickleball TV or maybe on YouTube, his YouTube channel, and that is right there, real quickly before I jump into that. He has been intentional with his video content, and he's built up an audience through that. And as a result, some of his sponsorships, they come out there as ad units, if you will, in some of his episodes. So he's building an audience. He has built a platform, and the audience is coming there, right? And as a result, it's garnered him many, many, many sponsorships. And we're going to kind of, dig into this. So the goal here is we want to zero in on one of the most electrifying athletes in the game of pickleball. And we're not just talking about, his style of play. We're not talking about how many podium finishes he has and, all of that. While he has definitely done that stuff, we want to talk about how he has built that magnetic personal brand. So, that comes from his partnerships with performance, his personality, and then what is I mean, we don't know numbers, but what is the real money making power that he has here? And he's solidified it that right now, if he walked away from pickleball, revenue would keep going for a long time for this guy. So, who is Tyson McGuffin? Jerry, you want to kick this off?
Yeah, a little backstory here we've got put together. Tyson grew up on an apple orchard in Yakima, Washington. Was a wrestler, then a competitive tennis player. There's a little bit of that tennis to pickleball crossover, if you will.
Or man?
Yep. And then made the leap to pickleball and continued to stay on fire.
Yep.
5-time national champion, U.S. Open gold medalist, and one of the most recognized faces on the PPA tour. But as you mentioned, he's not just a competitor, he's a showman. He's an entertainer as well,
Yep.
right? He's got that mullet, the tattoos, the intensity, charisma. He doesn't really just walk onto the court before he's there to perform. He enters like he owns the place, right?
Yep.
Larger than life kind of personality. So, we figure that what makes him special is this blend of a couple of different things. He's got the competitive edge. He's charismatic. He's great on camera, obviously. He's authentic. What you see is what you get, right? You pointed that out. And then he's super relatable. And that's one of the things that we talked about as far as being authentic with your personal brand is, you show how relatable you are in your authenticity, right? And that's how you connect with people. So he's a family man. He coaches. He creates great content. He tells his story, and he owns all of it, right? So that's what allows people to kind of draw into him with that authenticity.
Yeah, so I'll say that Tyson got a couple bonus points with me because he cut the mullet off and he's got, my style of hair now, so looks better on him. But yeah, his wife, and it doesn't take you very many episodes of making the McGuffins. Once again, Pickleball TV. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that on YouTube as well. But you'll see how involved his wife is, right? She's like to me, she's his manager and she's his life partner, right? So they do so much together and he will talk her up, he will elevate her. And there's plenty of times that you'll see him stopping on these PPA tours and events and stopping and taking pictures with kids and shaking hands and stuff. And, when he's well tired and, and you'll see other athletes that kind of just walk off and like they make a point to like beeline to get out of there, right? Like they're not relatable because they're not letting themselves have access, letting the fans have access. If you're an athlete, and I don't think we have any of this in our show notes of what we've created here. This is the same thing with a business. Give people a peek behind the curtain. Pickleball Studio, building pickleball with Brian Lim. Some of these guys, these bigger shows, they went and did a tour with Selkirk. Selkirk gave them access behind the curtain because Selkirk has been getting dogged on by the pickleball paddle world for so long. And they just came out with a new paddle recently. And before they even announced it, I saw Jack Sock playing with it. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, at first I thought it was a different brand. So I'm like pausing the TV. I'm trying to look and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I then did it with Instagram, did a zoom in. And I realized like, this is a paddle that's not even out yet. And, and they gave a peek behind the curtain. And now you're hearing people talk more positively about Selkirk, which is, one of the biggest brands in pickleball paddles that exists next to Yola and some of the other brands. But they gave that peek behind the curtain. So Tyson does that with his content, right? And he's showing who he is, good, bad, ugly, whatever that is. But it makes him super relatable. It makes him super authentic. And as a result, the brands have come. So with that and the brands that have come, let's kind of get into that partnership breakdown here. JR, you want to take the first one?
Yeah. Yola.
Yep.
You had mentioned his paddle partner. switched to Yola. What was that last year, I believe?
Yep.
After almost 10, was it 8? What did we say, 8 or
Yep.
9? 8 years
With Selkirk.
with
Yep.
Selkirk. So launched his signature Magnus Pro paddle line. Um, Eula fits his image as a high performance pro level athlete. And he's not just a user, he's a product
Yep.
partner, right? He's creating that content almost right alongside them, with them, for them. So he's formed a real partnership with Eula.
Yeah, and I've never hit a Yola paddle. I know, the Yola 4 is, where it's at supposedly. I love technology and stuff so much, and I've probably within the last 4 months I bought like 8 paddles, and I'm close to buying a ninth one because I'm in a Discord. I'm actually in a Discord for one of the brands, and they're giving people in that Discord access to this upcoming paddle that's coming out at some point this year. So I'm supposed to get my link next week. So I'm buying paddles probably they're a third of the price of what a Yola is. But I did see a guy do reviews, just like thumbs up, thumbs down of like all of the different paddles. And I'm surprised because a lot of people hit the Yola Perseus 4, which is Ben John's paddle. And like, I mean, you'll find that in almost all competitive landscapes of pickleball. But this guy gave it a thumbs down, but then he gave Tyson's a thumbs up. But I don't see Tyson's paddle really get promoted that much. But I would love to hit that paddle at some point. And I probably should just do like I think Pickleball Central does this, and somebody else, I can't think who it is, but they'll let you like rent basically 5 paddles, kind of like how what Warby Parker does with glasses. And you have so many days to hit them and send them back. And then when you send them back, they give you a code because you got to pay a little bit of money. It's not very much though. It's like, I don't know, a couple tens of dollars. They'll give you a discount coupon code to buy a paddle off them afterwards. So kind of like locks you in because you're like, oh man, I got this discount. I want to spend it. Right. So one of the big jumping into one of his next partnerships and deals is a brand that most of us have heard of. We know, probably wore at some point in our lives. I know I've had a pair back in high school. I do think their pickleball shoes are much more flashier, and obviously, Tyson, he wants the flashy shoes, and and for form and functionality is Skechers. So Skechers does footwear and apparel. Tyson uses both on and off the court. And then he helped co-launch a specific, we'll call it Tyson McGuffin shoe. It's called the Viper Court. So those are pretty sharp. I've taken a look at them. I wound up actually buying a pair of Nike pickleball shoes for myself. I like them. They're a little clunky, but I get it. Lateral movements and stuff. And I was wearing my normal shoes and just ripped the crap out of those things. But when you think of Skechers, you think of their branding elements, right? Those branding elements do tie to Tyson's personality type. So it reflects for him relatability. It reflects, that athleticism a lot. And then there's that little bit of flashiness, kind of shows that flair of who Tyson is and what Skechers is, showing. Um, with that, number 3 is Hyper Ice, right? So, JR, you ever used any Hyper Ice recovery tools?
I have not. No, I'm in excellent shape.
So, so I do have 2 Hyper Volts. I have the original, which I used it so much, and I think it might have been a functionality flaw, but like there's the percussion head and there's the gun, and then there was a unit in between those two, and it separated. So if I would try to use it, if you would get that thing close, it'll pinch your skin and it hurts like no other. I got the Hyper Go. It's the travel one that could be thrown inside of a pickleball bag if you wanted to, or in any of your, athletic bags where you're taking stuff on and off the court. So Hyper Ice is actually the official partner of the NBA. So you'll see those on a movable rack on charging stations. So Hyper Ice has built itself up to be the premier recovery tools that exist out there. The vibrating like massage ball that you can roll on, the leg compression sleeves, which are super expensive. Probably well used for pickleball, right? And a pro athlete. But
Mhm.
when you think about the level of what Hyper Ice is, this isn't some no-name brand that's trying to make a name for themselves. They made their name, and then they went and associated, hey Tyson, whether Tyson reached out with his wife or his people, or they reached out to him. They said, hey, we want you, right? And once again, he's at the older end of the age when it comes to pro pickleball players, but they associated with him because of who he is. To me, he kind of has that Red Bull athletic. He's somebody I would see on Red Bull, right?
Yep.
In my opinion. So, which is kind of funny because then we go into our next one, and one that I actually started drinking because of Tyson is Rain Energy. Rain Energy had been around for a while. They were competing with Bang Energy back when they had the bigger black cans. I mean, it was a direct ripoff to a T. Obviously, Bang Energy went under. I think it was eventually bought. I can't remember who bought it, if it was Rain or not, but Rain came out with those more Red Bull style cans where they're a little skinnier and smaller. What was cool is the energy industry, and this is kind of off topic, there's not a lot of regulation around the energy industry. Rain Energy actually has an FDA approval on it, which as somebody who comes from the pharma world, I find that fascinating. They have health benefits in there as well for, I can't remember what the ingredients were. I don't think it was collagen, but you're talking about skin, hair, nails, things like that. So for a woman, that's going to be really important, right? Because that's something like, she's probably focused on with like biotin and things like that to make sure that the growth of her nails and her hair and all that stuff. So found that interesting, but he drinks Rain Energy. He promotes Rain Energy. It's not hard to get on Instagram and see a post that he's posted with Rain. He just did one actually, I think yesterday. And I actually commented to him about it. I don't think he'll ever respond back to me, but I did comment. So what correlates there, right? So going back to personal brand, high energy player, showman, high energy drink. Perfect together, right?
Yep.
You got guys that are half his age and their level of energy on the court is nowhere near his. I mean, this guy is just, I don't know if it's from his wrestling days or what it is, but he's nonstop. So once again, Rain Energy matches his on court intensity and his training lifestyle. So once again, be your authentic self, figure out who you are, what you want to highlight about yourself. And you might eventually start seeing brands that are saying, hey, we resonate with you. We match you. We want to sponsor you. And once again, that equates to dollars in your bank account at the end of the day, right? Which is hopefully the goal to allow you to go on to compete, train, work on the things that make you better on the court and allow you to, like, we have all heard the stories about certain athletes who were working a full-time job and they decided to take the jump and say, hey, I'm quitting my job. I'm going full-time in this. So you build that brand and you start getting sponsorships. It's going to make it way easier for you to leave your day job, whatever that is, to go on to be a full-time pickleball player and compete at a high level on the PPA tour, or, maybe it's the APP, or, move on and go to a great team also with MLP and hopefully not be sitting the bench, hopefully, and you're, getting to compete and you're not an alternate, but either way, if you get picked, no matter what, you're a stud, guy or girl. So next one, JR, we both have kids, so I'm sure we probably have cut many of these things and put them on plates. So I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, and this one's wild too because Tyson, we'd mentioned earlier, as part of his, his intro, his origin story was that he grew up on an apple orchard, right?
Yeah.
So he's got this lifestyle and nutrition kind of partnership with Cosmic Crisp apples.
Yep.
He promotes the apples at his camps and online, which again, it goes back to that connection, right? Like if you're at a camp and you're, promoting the product, you're connecting with people, especially something like an apple. It's pretty easy. It's a consumable right
Yep.
there on the spot, right? The Cosmic Crisp apples is neat because it's deeply personal, right? It's him, it's genuinely him, right?
Yeah.
It's authentically him. That's what's nice about it. That's the personal part about the personal brand, right? very deeply personal to him. Another one, which is kind of wild, because when you think of, well, at least when I think of high performing athletes, I often don't think of alcohol.
Yeah.
But we can see a little bit here how it matches the brand.
Yeah.
It's Miller Lite is another partnership that we highlighted. They represent his off the court vibe. We highlighted a few of these terms earlier. You know, he's a casual guy. He's extremely fun. He's a human being. I drink beer occasionally, and when I drink beer, I'm usually just being casual.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun,
Yep.
be it swimming with the kids or cooking out or something.
Yep.
I'm often doing it with other people. So there's an easy correlation there to kind of genuinely connect, with his fans. It's used in content that shows the relaxed post-game Tyson, which is it's pretty neat when you see some of the videos where they integrate together.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a different look, right, for him.
Yep. Agreed.
Another one we highlighted here, related to court infrastructure. These guys are right way crack repair. Wild. Just wild. Partnerships abound, right? So what do? They help repair court cracks across the country. Tyson
We need that.
partners with them.
Yep.
What's that?
So we need that for our one set of courts. Big time.
In your
Yep.
Yeah, in your local court. Tyson integrates this partnership into his mission to grow the game, right?
He's a true brand ambassador of the game.
Exactly.
Of the game.
Yep. As he's out there trying to grow the game, this is a repair the court, invite people on it. Let's get people involved. Let's upgrade. Let's up level. That kind of mentality.
Yep.
And so it obviously reinforces his commitment to pickleball at the local level.
Yep.
Which is ultimately where it all begins, locally.
Yes. And I do think, and I think this is maybe an episode or two away that we should look to do, is specifically how, when you look at the amount of people who play pickleball, right? That number is massive, massive number. But there's not really that many of those number from a percentage standpoint that follow or know the PPA well, right? Or the players. So I do think there's a connection thing that needs to happen for the PPA. I do have suggestions, so I'm looking to put that out in an episode, and let's look to put some content together around that. And I think that's something that could be valuable if it ever gets to the right hands. Whether or not they find our information good, or they think we're just two idiots behind the camera, which could be. Then
Possible.
I'll take the next one, because I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah.
Because I had looked to buy one. Ernie is a pickleball machine, right? And there's a bunch of competitors out there that exist. So Tyson uses the Ernie machine at his camps and for his own personal training. These machines are meant to travel and haul around with you, flip the one side up, throw the pickleballs in there. And then typically there's innovation involved where you can use an app and you can set it for how you want the shot to come to you, but you can work on, your backhands, your drives, your drop shots, all based on how you use the app to change. So you don't have to run across the court and turn knobs. You just use the app and you say, hey, I want to do this, get the balls back in there and start rocking and rolling again. So what does this brand do for Tyson? So one of the things that we kind of hinted at a little bit is Tyson has a Tyson McGuffin pickleball camp. They do have a recommended duper that you be at to, get value from this camp. And they do different things around the country. And Tyson has a couple guys that are great pickleball players that he's aligned himself to, and they help to coach and teach at his pickleball camps, right, around the country. And this happens throughout the whole summer and, spring, maybe early fall. So this reinforces Tyson's coaching, him as a coach, and not just a competitor on the PPA or the MLP. It shows that we just talked about the right way crack. He's an ambassador and a leader in the pickleball space. He, was one of a few players that had actually went over to Asia to help promote the PPA. I know Connor Pardo was there as well. So I'm sure Connor and whoever else said, hey, Tyson, we'd love for you to go over there because he is a ambassador of the game. So, and and once again, he has his camp. So this Ernie Pickleball Machine partnership shows that he's a coach and not just a competitor. And then obviously we talked about like some of the innovation behind the Pickleball Machine with the apps and stuff. Innovation, right? It's not version 1, we're on version whatever, showing the technology aspects, how we can make things better and innovate. And that obviously gives him high level preparation to what he does, on and off the court, whether it's coaching or at a PPA or MLP event. Um, so hopefully, as we've broke down everything here with Tyson, you've listened to this and you can correlate every single partnership, sponsorship that Tyson has with who he is as a person. These brands more than likely reached out to him and said, hey, we want to get involved in pickleball because we see the growth of pickleball. And that's the purpose of what we're doing here with this podcast. We see the growth of pickleball. We think there's a lot that, where we can give feedback, advice to help grow, whether it's brands, small brands, lower level athletes who might not be at the PPA level. Because I do think most of the PPA guys, they probably have an idea of what to do to a certain extent, which if we get time, I know we're a little over an hour right now. So I do want to close this out here soon. So, when we think about everything that Tyson has done, like what can these athletes, JR, in your opinion, learn from Tyson?
Yeah. So let's start with the first thing would probably be to use your story as kind of a foundation for your brand.
Like anchor it,
right?
right?
That's right. That's right. So thinking about, Tyson from growing up on the apple farm to becoming a pro athlete, it's real. People want to relate to that, right? And it's a pretty powerful story. So, use your story as the anchor for your brand, as foundation.
Yep.
2, being authentic, right? Owning your image.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
don't be fake.
Yep.
So what does it look like? It's for him, it's the tattoos. It's the intensity. It's the swagger on and off the court, right? You don't want to tone that down. You want to amplify what makes you.
Yep. Because we're all different, right? We're all different.
That's right. Yep. He's clearly partnering with a purpose.
Yes.
Right.
1,000%.
Every brand has to make sense. You don't just want to just cash in checks. So have purpose. He's done a great job of diversifying revenue. So between paddles, apparel, camps, content, Amazon storefronts, he's building multiple revenue streams. It's pretty smart stuff.
Yes, it is.
He's more than an athlete. So, and this could be exhausting, right? But he's a coach, he's a creator, he's an ambassador for the sport. He's making his brand bigger than the statistics.
But he's also high energy, right? So that high energy in this instance correlates very well for him to be able to do everything that he does.
Holds it off really, really well, for sure. You're exactly right. Back to owned media, he controls his media, be it podcast, YouTube shows, social presence. He owns his platforms, so that's key. And then investing in the community would probably be another one. From Right Way to Cosmic Crisp Apples, he supports the ecosystem that supports him, right? Really connecting that pickleball community, even the future of the sport, to himself and these brands, forming the bridge, right?
Yep. Yeah.
He does all of that stuff really well.
Yeah, and there's definitely some professional pickleball players, both men and women, who've started to put more content out there, both on social and on YouTube. And I mean, if I'm honest, the content's very weak. They're doing things that everybody does. They're how to hit a backhand, how to, properly hit your flick, things like that. And while that is still important to do, if you're really wanting to let people know who you are, do things like day in the life. Ask one of your friends to follow you around. And it's not, and I won't call anybody out here, but It's not, oh, my day was going to the salon and getting a massage and getting my hair done, because that content doesn't relate. Especially when you compare to somebody like Tyson or some of these other guys where they're showing they have 2-hour gym sessions, and they're hustling out there and they're doing recovery, and they're showing everything they do to become a high level player. And then they're also showing, maybe they are showing some of that spa stuff, but like if your full episode is, that's all it is like, I went to the salon, I got my nails done, that's weak, right? Like we don't want to see that.
Mm,
So, when it's all said and done, and we circle back here on Tyson to wrap this up. Tyson
mm,
is more than just a pickleball player. As we said, he's an ambassador of the game. He's a coach. He's a family man. He has a personal brand powerhouse, right? And he's doing everything right. And he's doing everything back to what we said earlier. He's doing it with intention. So
mhm.
if you're wanting to build a brand that lasts, watch what Tyson's doing and start taking notes. Whether you are on the PPA or the MLP and you like him or you don't like him, doesn't really matter. You have to respect him at the end of the day. Same thing I said earlier about Bryce Harper. I respect him as a baseball player and his ability. I don't agree with his cockiness, if you will. I think he could probably learn some things from Tyson to where he could be a showman more, and he has done that. But like just back off the cockiness, and I think you'll find more people outside of Philly who might like you, right? So take what Tyson's doing, and then make it your own. And over time, you will have brands that want to partner with you. So when you think about action steps, as we close here, JR, is there a couple that you can think of that you'd want to give to the people?
Yeah, related to personal brand, just pick one thing to work on this week.
Good
You're
idea.
busy,
Yeah,
we're all
I love
busy.
that.
So one thing, right? It might be rewrite your LinkedIn bio. It might be go to that trusted person in your inner circle and ask them for feedback,
Yeah,
right? What three things come to mind whenever you think of me? Define your three brand words. Maybe get that compass, that North Star, that one pager, and define it for yourself. And then think, what do I need to take to move in that direction? What kind of steps do I need to take to move in that direction?
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, it's like you said earlier in the episode. A lot of us don't think we have personal brands, but the fact is we
We
do,
do.
right?
Yep.
So if
Intentional,
you've listened to
unintentional.
this, that's right. So if you're listening to this and you think, I think I've got that one step I can take, you know, I'm getting clearer on what I can do to level up.
Yep.
We just ask that you leave a review, share it with somebody who's also building a personal brand that's in your circle. Let them know that we're out here talking about this stuff, and we'd love to know how it helps somebody else.
And I will leave one thing with you. I am a person who loves to give and help others as much as I possibly can. So I don't know how many listeners we have yet, JR, but if there's somebody out there in the pickleball world and you're looking and you are competing at a high level and you're looking to actually grow your brand and move up, um, I'm going to throw this out there that we will be willing to craft something for you, a one pager for yourself. That might be through some Instagram messaging back and forth on the Pickleball Business Lab. That could be pickleballbusinesslab@gmail.com if you want to do email, but I would look to help you maybe like the first 10 to 15 people, JR. You think that's a good number to stick with?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
So 10 to 15 people. We'll do what we can to help you and put together a one pager for you. And once again, if you're a brand and you're listening to this episode, this is a new podcast around the intersection of business and pickleball. We look to continue this for a unforeseeable future. Once again, I believe in the sport. I believe in the growth of it. I believe in the brands that I see out there. With that, JR, we do have that I'm going to reach out to from the pickleball business side of things, a brand, and see if we can get them on the show to do an interview with them at some point soon.
Awesome.
I'm really excited about that. So I'll get that sent out and see if we can make that happen. But with that, we want to close and say thank you guys for listening. Give us a follow on all the social channels if you get the chance to. If you're watching on YouTube, hopefully your screen did not crack having to look at us. And if you're listening, don't forget we are on YouTube. So, hey guys, thank you so much. And we hope you have a great day. Until next time. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.